the Jets are cracking at times against Will Levis and Bo Nix. And Bo really didn't do anything today. But once again, the Broncos scored enough points to win. What is it going to look like against real quarterbacks? You still have to play Kyler Murray this year. You're going to play Josh Allen twice. It's going to be different. You're going to play that Vikings offense. So the defense, I mean, they can't walk out of this one like they did all last year and go, it's not us. They can't. They weren't, listen, were they a major issue today? No, but they're also not part of the solution right now, in my opinion, because they just get, like, some of the big runs are just embarrassing. And
out of position and it's soft. And
it's a weird conundrum, too, because I don't really know what lever they pull because of who they don't have anymore in the front seven. All I can tell you is, and I say it every week, like, Michael Clemens is not a starting player.
Play Leonard Taylor. Just play Leonard Taylor. What do we?
Right. I mean, we're at the
play anybody else.
Right. Pulled the anything else lever. I kind of get it because it probably can't get worse. It really can't get worse. I mean, just looking at it today, you just watch some of those plays. It's really almost embarrassing for their standard, at least when you look at them against the run. I mean, Clemens, Solomon Thomas, obviously Jalen Holmes, who's up for for a lot of run
Bruce
defense.
Hector in the action this week.
The Jets' run defense today was horrific, honestly. Yeah. Like, I'm just like, it was just horrific. Sherwood didn't really have a good day, honestly.
Yeah. Little reminder that you could still use CJ Mosley, certainly on early downs.
Yeah, this was kind of the game reminder, like, man, you like Sherwood as the third linebacker and in spurts, but Mosley is still Mosley in a hard hat game like this. Yeah, the Jets aren't good up front against the run. They're not tough. They get bullied. They get pushed around. Mind you, the Broncos are missing their starting right tackle in this game. They really don't have. They're such a one-dimensional offense because Bo can't do anything, and it didn't matter. The Jets couldn't stop it. It was. I don't think this was a good day for the defense if you're evaluating what this is going to look like against a real offense, not Denver. That's why I have a problem with it today. And Michael Carter was clearly pissed about a miscommunication on the back end with Sutton. And knowing what I know about Michael Carter, who was a 4-year starter in college, just earned that big contract extension, probably, I would say, the smartest guy in that defense, if not number 1, number 2, or 3. He was probably right, whoever he was pissed at. And people got to get their shit together on that because that can't happen. And you know what? It happens a lot with the Jets. They actually have a lot of miscommunications on defense. They usually are just so talented that they dig themselves out of it or it leads to a field goal. But there's a lot of poor communicating going on here. And once again, I don't think this has been a good year for Sauce Gardner. I mean, I don't evaluate Sauce anymore. Like, hey, like, nice to have a starting corner. I evaluate Sauce like a guy that's going to be paid $25 to $30 million a year quite shortly. I don't think he's been good this year. He's not tackling anyone. It's just
sure as hell was not. He was the third or fourth best corner on the field today. Surtain is better than him.
DJ Reed had a hell of a game. Hell of a game.
Was better than
him.
I want
to give Reed his credit because I know. We talked that we probably don't think he'll be back. It's kind of the nature of the business. Reed played his ass off today.
He did.
And really and I haven't seen that from Sauce this year. I haven't.
It kills me because I like these guys more than anyone, and I want them all to be here for 20
Hell
years.
Yeah.
To watch Sutton be better than Garrett Wilson, to watch Surtain be much better than Sauce, and to watch Brees not be better than Javonte Williams or Braylon Allen or whoever else the Broncos were cycling through sucks. I mean, those are the building blocks, and that's that's frustrating. So we'll do 2 quick ones and then we'll wrap and we can end on a bit of a more positive note. So I'll bundle these from Cuddy Shark 19. Is there a more obvious sign of bad coaching than not being prepared after bye weeks and mini bye weeks? And then from MY Jets 1250, can you and Connor give us any reason to be hopeful that this season is not going to be a complete disaster and this team is going to be 2-5 after the next 3 weeks, considering the upcoming opponents they're going to play? So yes, it's always a telltale sign that you had 10 days to prepare. There was no good reason to not have the team ready to rock here, especially can't use the weather as an excuse. The somewhat scary thing is like the UK is going to be another barometer. Like that's a tough trip. It's a different time zone. The Jets did this with Saleh a few years ago when they played Atlanta. They were coming off a nice win against the Titans and they sleepwalked through the first half. They got it together in the second half, but it was too little too late. And in some ways, like, the London aspect adds interesting variance. When you're the underdog, you want variance. Maybe you catch the Vikings sleeping a little bit. They're going to be favorites. Everyone is going to be crowning them as the best team in the league. And maybe you could get up early with Rodgers, but it's a tough challenge for the coaching staff with the time zone shift. And anyone who's done that flight from New York to London knows it's exhausting. And never mind how to play a football game at 9 in the morning. To the second part, look, on paper, you could very easily be like, man, this team's going to be 2-5, just like that. Now, I would say the league is weird. The league is weird in particular this year. I look around the AFC, like the Broncos, who are 0-2, they beat the Bucks, who then go out and destroy the Eagles today, who are now 2-2 themselves. Watching this Ravens-Bills game, Ravens are like in pretty solid control. If they're starting 0-2, they're going to be 2-2. Jaguars are 0-4. Bengals are 1-3. The Browns are falling apart. The Dolphins have the season from hell. The Pats got killed by the Niners. I'm not using this as a justification for the Jets. I'm saying we're still at the point of the season where there'll be some surprise outcomes. And I don't know which of the next three it will be. I want to sit on this one a little more. I think the Jets will win one of their next 3 games. And I think they'll even up when they beat the Pats in New England and be 4-4. And I'm not saying we should be throwing a party about them being 4-4, but I'm saying they'll be alive at 4-4. And I hope, again, that they're proactive with this roster. And maybe it's not the splashy shit that we've been talking about with Devontae and figuring out something with Reddick. They got to do something. They need another body on the defensive line. They need another weapon on offense, period. They just do. And they have no reason not to go for it because they're all for their jobs. They have to win now. And you don't know what the deal is with Rodgers. Rodgers looked alarmingly gimpy at the end of that game. I almost want him to stop in Germany on the way to London, get those legs, whatever you got to do, because it's scary. It's a reminder, this guy's old. And if he's going to, Brian Flores is going to blitz the ever-living shit out of him next week. Now, the good news about that, how Tom Brady would kill teams when they would blitz the ever-living shit out of him. He had an answer for it. And if the Jets could have their heads on straight, drop some screens, get in the 5 wide, do quick releases, burn them on the blitz, that's why you have Aaron Rodgers. And I will say, and I'll close with this, and then I'll let you answer. The thing that did dumb me today, Rodgers was fine today. I think he made some really nice plays. He had a couple misses, had a couple great throws too. You have Aaron Rodgers to win these games. You had 2 drives at the end where you could have won the game. You were down 10-9. You had the ball twice. And to not get any points at home when you got to the opposite side of the 50 both times, that's disappointing. That's where he needs to, and even if his receivers are on the wrong page, that's where he needs to be Aaron Rodgers, who's a first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback, and make one play to win the game. And we leave and we're doing the pod now and we're like, the Jets played terrible today. Thank God they have Aaron Rodgers at quarterback because he made that 28-yard completion to Mike Williams on that 3rd down, and Greg knocked it through and they won 12-10. It's his 4th game back. He'll be better 3, 4, 5 games from now, pending he stays healthy. That was I did really think they were going to win all the way up through the end. After Lutz missed that kick, I was like, they're going to win this game like they won the Giants game last year. We're going to do a little Shawshank Jets and say they won. They won ugly. It doesn't matter because they're 3-1. He didn't get him far enough. He didn't get him far enough in the drive before that. And he's lucky they didn't properly call a strip sack because he was stripped there.
Yeah, right. Good point.
Those are my final thoughts. Look, we'll be a little further away from it on Tuesday. And again, I want to do War Room really focused on Brees and Garrett this week. Pod will spend a little more time on the tape and the Vikings game. The season's never over at 2-2. As I said in all my annoying group chats today for all my Giants and Pat fans, they're 2-2. If they're 0-4, 1-3, it's a little bit of a harder conversation. Hurts losing in the conference. There will be 9-win teams in the playoffs in the AFC this year. Buffalo loses tonight. They're 3-1, not 4-0. It's very early. It's September. Final thoughts, CR.
Yeah, I mean, you look around, right, as we sit here today, Miami's 1-2. We'll see what happens tomorrow night. Everybody in the AFC West is 2-2 besides the Chiefs. It's just that the Bengals have gotten off to a bad 1-3 start. It's the Steelers, who are 3-1, looked pretty bad today overall. It's early, like you said. It's just a win. You'd like to be one of the 3-1 teams because you should be. That's what it comes down to. And I think the frustrating part is just knowing that this team has the talent to be much better than they are, as they're so handicapped by the coaching. And that's really frustrating. But it's a long season. I always thought the Jets' best football would be the second half of this season. And it was a matter of, can they grind through some of these wins? Didn't ever consider that they'd beat San Francisco, but thought they can go up undefeated to the Buffalo game. And now they lost a tough one to Denver because I knew there'd be some, they didn't play in the preseason, right? And Rodgers didn't play football last year. So there's going to be rust to shake off, and you got to grind to wins when that's the case. But it's only going to make it tougher on that second half of the year. And Listen, is Devontae Adams going to save the season? Like, that's not what anyone's saying here. Could he help? Yes. But right now, to me, what matters is I think this front needs to be much tougher defensively. And I think that they need to show they can counterpunch offensively. Because, yeah, you're right. Like, Brian Flores is going to bring it next week. And to be honest with you, with a veteran quarterback like Rodgers, part of you should be licking your chops that you can get the ball out and have guys make some plays, because it's not like the Vikings line up, Revis Island across the board. You could beat these guys. Jordan Love threw some picks today, but he also lit it up as well.
Threw 4 touchdowns.
They were
down 28-0 and lost 31-29. They were right there.
Yeah, right. So Sam Darnold could still turn the ball over at times. Like, it's not a juggernaut. It's going to be a really tough game, but they need to respond. And this was a wildly disappointing loss to an inferior team on 10 days rest. Now you're going to be a little uncomfortable. You're flying across the world, not across the world. London ain't that bad of a flight, folks. But, flying across the pond, kind of a weird practice schedule. That's not really a real practice schedule. Maybe getting away loosens this team up. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Well, I'll be honest with you, and I don't say this very often. I have no idea what to expect from this team in London.
It's fair.
Because what am I supposed to evaluate off of? They didn't really look good for half the game against Tennessee. They dominated New England in one of the most dominant Jets wins I've seen in a while. And then they looked really lifeless and lax and uninterested and undisciplined at home against a Denver team that's unimpressive. So are they the classic, like, we need to get up for our opponents? Because that happens a lot. And that's on the coaching, by the way. Yeah. That is on the coaching. So we'll see. I expect it to be very interesting in London. I'll say that. And before we close, what do you think the line is? I'm going to go Vikings 5.5.
Last I saw, I was 2.5. It's 2.5. I think that will creep up because everyone. This is going to be, and we're happy for Sam, but it's going to be an annoying week of the Jets blew it with Sam Darnold.
He already played the Jets.
Darnold, this has already happened, and he was a quarterback like 3 teams ago. It's not that recent. That's going to be the thing all week. Everyone is going to be excited to bet against the Jets and watch Rodgers lose in prime time.
Sam's 27 years old.
Morning. I know this, but this is going to be the thing.
No, you're right.
Week, right?
You're right.
And I think it's good actually that the Vikings won today, because unless you think the Vikings are going to be 15-2 or 16-1, like, they're going to lose a game at that. I think the line should be higher. Like, I would probably put it more at like 3.5, 4.5. Yeah. Like, objectively, like, if you could get it at 2.5, like, it's logical to bet the Vikings right now. But let's see. I want to see how Rodgers feels all week. Like, hopefully he's not actually that banged up. And I don't know, man. It's interesting. 9:30 games. Like, the Jets they've had 2 London games. All right. They had the one in 2015 where they beat Miami, and they had the ugly one against Atlanta. I hope for, and we'll talk about this more this week, I hope for there's a lot of UK Jet fans. There's a lot of people making the trip. I feel bad for the people who are out there in the goddamn rain today. I wish it would stop raining.
Oh, man.
These home games.
Those poor people.
It's just sucks. I sat through one last year in the Tim Boyle game, which was one of the worst Jet days of my life, because it's just so cold and rainy and miserable. But especially for these London fans, man, like, they're waiting once every few years to see this team in person. Like, do not go out there.
The Jets have a good fan base out there, man, overseas.
Go out there. If they go out there and they lose 31-28 in a shootout, it'll be very annoying. But, like, just don't go out there and embarrass yourselves like you did on Monday night against the Niners. So we'll see. There's a lot of season left. Today sucked. I'm not going to act like today didn't suck. I'm not going to act like the coaching staff doesn't have all these flaws we discussed, and there's still issues on the roster. But I've seen worse situations and worse losses than the Jets being 2-2 with still having Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. And I still think there's a world where we're talking about this team at 4-4. We're talking about this team at 6-5, even 5-6, playing meaningful games down the stretch, trying to make it in a very muddy and jumbled AFC. So we'll have a full week of content. We'll be loaded up. We'll have Flight Plan and other guys tomorrow. We'll have War Room Tuesday. We'll have Pod Wednesday. Flight Plan Thursday, maybe a film room at some point. 1 year or 2, Buck the Trend, TOJ Talks, and then bright and early Sunday. We can record this like in the afternoon, like a nice normal time. And that's it. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.